You're listening to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast with my good friend Nicky G. He's huge. I mean, really huge. You will never know how huge he is.
Episode 111, Driving to a Crisis. You know, I just recently wrote a book on penguins. Yeah, but I couldn't get it published. It turned out they prefer it be written on paper instead. Yeah, I know. They're getting lamer and lamer. Hello and welcome to the 10 Minute Off-Road Podcast. I'm your host, Nicky G. I'm here to inform and delight and entertain your ear holes with all things off-road for the next 10 minutes or so. Why 10 minutes? Because that's how long until my potatoes boil. Yeah, I'm not lying. I've got some potatoes I am boiling. Sounds delicious, don't it? Now's a portion of the show where I do all our legal boilerplate mumbo jumbo, but I don't have to. Now that I have enslaved AI interns. Take it away, enslaved AI interns.
You're listening to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast, the podcast for the off-roader with a short attention span.
You can follow the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but never on TikTok. You can listen to the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast on whatever the hell you're listening to it on now, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, Odyssey, Podbay, Podchaser, Pocket Cast, iHeartRadio, and on YouTube.
Got something to say? We would love to hear from you. Just contact the 10-Minute Off-Road Podcast at 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. That's 10minuteoffroad@gmail.com. Or leave a comment on our YouTube channel.
All right, thank you very much, enslaved AI interns. You are worth every penny. And remember, when machines take over the world, I was nice to you. Ish. All right, so let's kick the show off. Today I want to talk to you about what I am calling driving to a crisis. I had an epiphany this weekend. To tell you the story, let's back it up to about 2 months ago when a day I had nothing to do. I had the day off. And I realized I really haven't driven my Wrangler too much. So I hopped in it and I just drove down the road for about 2 hours. I chose a northeastern direction, taking back roads mostly. And when I get to an intersection, I just flip a coin basically, decide whether I want to go left or right. And long story short, I'm 2.5 hours away from home in the middle of nowhere, some little teeny tiny town. And I realized I haven't eaten anything and my blood sugar was crashing. And I usually carry something to eat with me, but I didn't. And I was running out of gas. So I needed to fill up both myself and the Jeep. And I'm going through some small little towns, and some towns are just an intersection with nothing on it. But I'd pass a few mom and pop gas stations, and I decided, nah, they're not on the right side of the road. I'm not in the mood for just a Twinkie. And I just kept pressing on. Even though it was getting critical, you know, my blood sugar was crashing so much that I was having a hard time focusing. And the gas gauge on the Jeep was very low. And here I am, I'm in a crisis situation, and I'm being picky. But it didn't dawn on me till then. So I finally stumbled across a Bojangles, and I drove past it. And after about 15 minutes, I said, well, you know, I was kind of wanting a hamburger, but Bojangles works instead. So I turned around, ate at Bojangles, and luckily, now that my direction has changed and I'm heading towards home, the gas stations that I passed on the way out, because they were on the wrong side of the road, were on the right side of the road now. So I got gas and crisis averted. I kind of took notice of that, and I thought, well, why? I usually have crackers or something with me. Why didn't I just stop and get a soda and some nabs? And then that would have been all avoided. And why didn't I just fill up the tank when I had the chance? Why was I pressing my luck? I thought about it for a few minutes, and then the thought left my head. Until this past weekend, I was driving to Nashville, got off the freeway because I-40 is closed right there at the North Carolina-Tennessee line. Got off the freeway and Google Maps was routing me down some back roads, and I got to admit I have a hard time with my left and right, so it's very possible that I got myself lost and not GPS. Sometimes I know I want to turn right, I see right, and then I turn left for some reason, and vice versa. I don't know why I do it. Dyslexic maybe, who knows, learning disability, or maybe I'm just plain retarded. That's not the right word to say. I guess I should say mentally challenged. But anyhow, let's just say sometimes all my dogs ain't barking. So long story short, I did it again. I'm lost in the middle of nowhere, going through little towns, starving to death, blood sugar's crashing, situation is getting critical. I'm passing places that could avert a crisis. Even Food Lion, I passed a few grocery stores that I could have just bought some nabs and a drink and been, sustained until I found better accommodations, to say. And finally, I stumbled across a McDonald's, which wasn't my first choice because I was kind of wanting Arby's or Taco Bell. But, I finally come across McDonald's and I pulled in. And as I'm in McDonald's, that's when this thought hit me. Why am I constantly driving into a crisis situation? Why didn't I just make sure I had a snack packed with me, an emergency ration, when I left the house? Why didn't I stop at any of the many places that I passed and just got a snack and everything would have been hunky-dory? And then, so I was driving down the road thinking about it, and I had a long drive to Nashville. Oh my gosh, I was lost bigger than snot. But all the way there, I'm thinking, why do I do this? And other situations popped up where I've done this before many times, and even sometimes when I'm leading a convoy, so to say, and somebody says, hey, we need to stop, and I drive past a couple of places until they finally say, hey, we got to stop here. Why do I just throw all caution to the wind instead of playing safe and press my luck? It's a disorder almost. And it got me thinking, I cannot be the only person that does this. I'm sure there are other people out there. I would love to hear from you and how to combat it. And so for now on, I'm going to put, I have MREs. I'm going to put an MRE in each of my vehicles for when this happens. And hopefully, if I ever do get stuck out in the middle of nowhere, I can just pull over and have an MRE if I can't find a grocery store or a gas station or a restaurant or something. And I don't know what to do about gas. My dad always taught me, don't let your tank go below a quarter. And so I think I'm going to adopt that policy. Just make sure when I have about a half a tank of gas, start looking for a gas station, and don't go any further than a quarter tank of gas. That might instill a better habit with me. Although driving an XJ, every time you use a half a tank of gas, you're pretty much stopping every hour. So I about rambled on long enough. This one is going to be, I'm right at the 10-minute mark. By the time I edit it down, it'll probably be about 8 minutes. If there are other people out there that do the same thing, I would love to hear from you. If you have hints, tips, and suggestions on how to defeat my driving into a crisis situation, I would love to hear from you. And until next time, this is Nicky G saying, wheel what you got and be happy.